Warning, this content is for entertainment and educational purposes only. All right, next question here is from Joshua H. from the School Anabolic Bodybuilding Members Community. If you want to pick up your membership, you can go over there and do that and have your questions guaranteed to be asked on the Q&A. Josh asked, how do you navigate the conflicting information about what works for diet? What convinced you that low fat, high carb is optimal versus high fat, low carb? Look, I think people get very dogmatic about their diet, and this is where most guys get themselves twisted up into knots. They treat their diet like a religion. They want to belong to a club. They want to belong to a cult. People want to belong to the carnivore cult. People want to belong to the keto cult. People want to belong to the sugar diet cult. People want to belong to the vegan cult. I mean, people want to be a part of a club, and it's us versus them. It's this tribal mentality that people have, which to me is just absolutely fucking idiotic. I look at macronutrient choice and macronutrient distribution as a tool in the toolbox, and we need different tools to accomplish different jobs. When I work with clients, I'm not specifically married to one style of diet. I do find carb cycling to be the most optimal for performance enhancement when it comes to physique or athletic enhancement, and I'll get into the reasons for that in just a second. But there are times where I do lower carb diets. There are times where I run zero carbs with people, and in fact with carb cycling we rotate through carbs. We'll have days where we push the carbs very high, keep the fats low. We'll have days where we pull the carbs down to we may pull the carbs down to nothing and push the fats up a bit. I mean, we rotate through these various things, so you're kind of getting the best of both worlds when you do things that way. But when we think about performance enhancement, when it comes specifically to bodybuilding and strength athletes, muscle contractions are largely in ATP and all these other things, glycogen synthesis, all these things are largely driven by glucose. And we need glucose present to maximize our performance in our chosen sport. The regular Joe who's just trying to get fit may not need to do that, man. We talk about big, full, round muscles, increasing glycogen synthesis, eating more carbs, using insulin, things like that are going to improve that. I've yet to see a carnivore guy that looks massive and ends up competing in the open in professional bodybuilding. It just doesn't happen. You have to eat carbohydrates if you want to look at that. And if you think about it, we have an immense capacity as we get larger to synthesize glycogen. And what we know about glycogen is important for muscle contractions. Glycogen also adds size to the muscle, whether you like it or not. The muscle is only 20 to 25%, somewhere in that range, of actual protein structures, contractile tissue, and the rest of it is the other stuff. Water, amino acids, glucose, all of the glycogen storage, all the other stuff that's going on in there. So that contributes to the look on stage. And ultimately, when we're on stage, the judges don't care about whether or not you're more contractile tissue or how you lift it or what kind of diet you follow. They just want to see hard, round, full, symmetrical on stage. And I find this style of dieting works best for that. And with higher carbohydrates, we're going to be able to force glycogen synthesis. When you're in a higher carbohydrate state, you're going to increase insulin secretion, you're going to increase mTOR, you're going to lower AMPK. Glucose is protein sparing. Glucose is going to also, those downstream metabolic effects are going to increase IGF-1 production. You can see it where guys are running a shit ton of growth hormone, they're running a keto diet, and their IGF-1 is in the fucking gutter. We'll see it all. The Liver King would be a prime example of that. I remember that guy was running, I don't remember how much growth hormone that guy was running. It was a lot. I'll just say that. It was a lot, and his IGF-1 was in the tank, and him and his stupid doctor at the time couldn't figure out why it was in the tank. It's probably because the dumbass wasn't eating any carbs. Probably was just that simple. So all of these metabolic effects that we have. But now what we do know, when we need to lose body fat, we need to be in a net negative energy balance, and carbohydrates are the easiest macronutrient to yank out of a diet when it comes to creating a caloric deficit, because we do need a certain amount of essential fatty acids in our diet for hormone production, vitamin transport, cellular repair, cognitive and cardiovascular health, all these other things. So we do need a baseline level of essential fatty acids. I think most people severely overeat saturated fats, and most people undereat essential fatty acids. So I do like having some added essential fatty acids in diets and keeping the saturated fats lower. I think overall that's going to improve your cardiovascular health, your lipid profile, all of these things that get skewed when we're using PEDs. So carbohydrates are going to be the easiest place to yank calories from. And when I run a carb cycling diet, we do that strategically. We'll have days where we run no to low carbs. We'll have one, maybe in some circumstances, 2 high carbohydrate days per week where we are in a caloric surplus. And we're going to force glycogen synthesis during that day. And in theory, if you keep your fats low on that day and you push your carbohydrates up high and you are glycogen depleted, that caloric surplus should result in glycogen synthesis and very minimal, if no, fat storage. And I've seen this over and over again when I do contest prep with people, where we can push carbohydrates really high on the high carbohydrate day and not gain any fat. And so ultimately, it's about body composition. It's about performance. Now, if we have a situation where we have somebody that's morbidly obese and insulin resistant, we might want to keep carbohydrates low. If we have a situation where maybe somebody has a health concern where they can't, if somebody's had a past cardiovascular event, somebody has cardiovascular disease, obviously we're going to want to keep fats a lot lower. We're going to need to be conscious of that. If we have somebody that suffers of dyslipidemia genetically, we're going to be more conscious about fat consumption. So it's a tool in the toolbox. Don't fall in love with one diet style. I do think carbohydrates and carbohydrate cycling is optimal for physique sports and strength sports. I think you'll find that most guys at the professional level in bodybuilding run some sort of caloric carb cycling. I don't see any, outside of contest prep, I don't see anybody getting huge running a low carb diet. You're just capped out on how big you can get. I've yet to see a 300-pound mass monster that's a carnivore or keto guy. They just don't exist. Maybe you got there and you switched to it. That's a possibility. But I think long-term, you're not going to get up there without pushing carbohydrates high. Carbohydrates are performance enhancing. I don't know why you wouldn't use them. To me, it's just an ideological thing where guys get married to a certain dogma and they're just like, well, I'm going to be on club this and everybody else is wrong, which I think is a very narrow-minded and silly way to think. I think we should be open and flexible when it comes to our diet and use an appropriate tool for the right job. Whatever's necessary for the job, that's what we use to get done.